Yeah.
Road game of the season.
Yep.
What's your thoughts going into that experience?
I wish it was against somebody that wasn't 16-2 at home last year. So, no, it's fine. We'll find out really quick. Really good UT-Arlington team. Like I said, went 16-2 at home last year, picked third in their league in the preseason. They're one of those teams that called and looking for games, and whenever a team's looking for games, it usually means they're going to have a bunch of seniors, which they do have. So they've got a really good team. Won their first game similar fashion to what we won our first game. They played a lot of possessions, so it should be very entertaining.
I guess to start with,
I'm sorry. You're already
Oh,
video. Thank you.
I couldn't hear you otherwise.
oh, of course not.
Huh.
Well, to start with, they graduated the big kid.
Yeah.
Who, I mean, she's a nice player.
Gave us fits last year. Yeah.
Yes. What did they do well? What do you feel like they do well?
Well, they also had a player that set out the last game. She was hurt. Probably their leading guard didn't play last year, so they'll lose some size, but they add some experience at the point guard spot. So she hurt us. We struggled with size pretty much all year last year. They've still got some size. If you watch them on film, they're really long. They've got some young kids with good size in there. We will be at a size disadvantage at 4 of the 5 matchup spots. So they do a good job of playing to their strengths. And they play up tempo. They play a lot of kids. They're really deep. Last year we didn't do that, so that was another advantage that they had last year. I think this year we can match them for depth, but they are going to have a size advantage of us at every spot.
What do you feel like you've seen from your team to this point? What sticks out as good, and what are maybe one or two things that you gotta get better with?
I think our pace is really good. I think we've been make or miss, been able to get the ball quickly up the floor. I think our shot selection and distribution's been very even. Again, not just with the exhibition games, but going back to Italy, everybody is within a shot or two of each other out of that 8 or 9 or 10 players that we're playing. Same way with minutes played. It's just been very, very balanced offensively. I do think we have some players who are emerging as defensive stoppers. And that could be what determines some lineups that we play together. I don't think I'm going to put our best defensive lineup necessarily all together, but you put 3 maybe on one team and 2 on the other. And I really would like to continue to play as many kids as possible in that first quarter as we can. I like how we're pacing. I like the decisions we're making. I think we can clean some things up defensively. We foul a little bit, I think, at times when you don't have to foul. There are certainly times to foul and times not to, and I'm not sure that we know what those times are yet, so we can improve there. And then we've got a lot of areas with the rebounding. We're always going to have that at the forefront of anything that we talk about, making sure we make contact with a kid and then try to beat them to the ball. I think we're good at that part of it. I think we're good at going to get it. We just sometimes aren't as physical on the initial hit.
When you look at the scores, I mean, do they like to play the pace you guys like to play? And so what will that matchup be like tomorrow when you guys get your first taste of that, how you guys like to play?
I think entertaining. They played the exact same number of possessions, played about 85 possessions in their first game. They may go a little deeper in the shot clock than we do offensively. But the thing about them is they press defensively as well. The one thing about us is we play fast offensively, but we play really slow defensively. We try to make you grind it out. We're in the gaps. We're in the pack line. We're not trying to steal the ball. So our number of possessions is a lot of times skewed by how we play defensively. But they play really fast on defense too. They're going to press. They're going to pick us up on makes and misses and try to make us work the length of the floor. So if I'm a Razorback fan and I'm close to Arlington, I'm trying to find a way to get in there because it should be a really entertaining game. They're good. They're a really, really good team. Like I said, they've got a lot of upperclassmen. I'm pretty sure when they scheduled this game, they looked at it and said, hey, we'll come to you guys first and y'all come back down here the next year. I know that's what we used to do when I was at Tulsa and at Xavier. That's how we would schedule it. We'd go on the road and play the team from maybe the bigger conference as people would perceive it, and then try to get them back at home when we had a bunch of seniors. So I think that's what's happening here.
You talked about the press not being ready for it. I can't remember if it was last game or the last exhibition game. How much have you focused on that, knowing what you're going to see?
We're ready for it now. Yeah, we had to call a timeout. I didn't anticipate a team to press, much less at the time of the game that they did, but that was fine. It gave us a chance to work on it. We had our guys in here yesterday, and we had them putting as much pressure on us as they could. Mal's pretty hard to press, and IT's no easy one to try to get hemmed up either. So I think we've got a good press attack team. It's just a matter of going down and making decisions at the end of it. But we did work on it extensively for 2 days. We'll work on it a little bit more today, but we'll be much more prepared. That was my fault last time.
That trip you guys took this summer, a lot of teams right now going on the road, it's like, well, we need to figure out how we are on the road. I mean, you guys have to be ahead of schedule on that, and it's kind of just another game for you guys.
Very ahead of schedule. We've already covered our kind of our do's and don'ts on the road. We'll remind them again today just because it's been a few months. But, yeah, Italy, a foreign trip, if you do it right, it should keep you ahead. Now you're always faced with that challenge of not letting them get peaked too early. But we are ahead. There's no question about that. We're ahead of teams that didn't have that opportunity. This group's been on the road together. We know who rooms well together. We know who doesn't. We know how to handle our business on the bus. All those expectations are there. So hopefully that helps us a little bit, and we're not having to fight those issues as well as a really good prepared team.
Can you talk a little bit about the rotation? Do you feel like you've settled into some sort of rotation at this point?
No, we're still – I mean, I'm telling you, if you look at the numbers, offensively it is a wash. All 10 of those kids, every lineup they're in is an absolute wash. It's within like .00. You're out to points that don't even matter because of a little bit of based on how we've played and who we've played a little bit. So that will start to separate eventually, but right now it hadn't. But the numbers on the defensive side have – so, again, rather than put all 5 of our, quote, best defensive players on the same team, we're going to keep mixing it up. We still have no idea who we're going to start. The rotations will be based on who we start after that. I would really like to play all 10 of those kids in the first quarter if we can. I don't know that if it's 5 for 5 like it's been being, but if we get off to the starts that we have had, I'll tell you, I made a lineup change at the very beginning in warm-ups. I had it set how I wanted to do it. I watched warm-ups, and Alexis Tolfree was lighting it up, and there was no question. She makes the first shot of the season for us. So I'm going in with an open mind. I know we've got 13 players that are going to be on that bench that we can count on, 10 that have been playing an awful lot. So whichever way it goes, we'll see. But it'll be not only game time, but it may be within the game on how the rotations go. But I think we've got options to explore still.
Second half start wasn't probably what you wanted the other day.
Yeah.
I mean, how critical is that tomorrow?
Got to get it fixed. You don't ever want to come out and get off to it took us a while to score. We weren't as hooked up as we were. And I don't know that if it was – and I don't blame it on the rotation. It may have been something I did at halftime. It could have been the way we managed halftime. We'll try different things. It could have been the lineup. But I won't know that until we play that lineup again together at a different time of the game. But I don't ever like to come out of halftime and have a letdown. It's hard when you're up like we were at halftime with a 30-point lead, and you can use all the coaching cliches you want about score 0-0, and it's part of it. And we weren't happy with it, neither were they, but we'll get it fixed.
Who stood out defensively? You talk about, though you've had some that kind of separated themselves.
Rokia and Bailey. Jalen Mason, IT, those 4 have been, if you're putting them position by position, those 4 have been really good. Rokia really makes people's lives difficult. She's quick, she's strong, she gets to a lot of balls that are 50-50. She's not going to get out strength, if that's a word. She's really, really good defensively. She knew that coming in. That's kind of, she embraces that role. She wants to be that player for us. I think Bailey understands our defense. She and Jalen may be as good as anybody we have. They're really good. We call them fixers. A lot of times within it, if their players got their back set in a screen, those kids are really good at getting an extra step off and help. And that's an understanding thing. And then IT just plays with a great tenacity. So they're all been playing very good defensively. Kiera and Taylor right now literally are they're different kids and different players, but they're performing the same role beautifully together. So I talked to them about comparing, looking at their numbers together. So they can celebrate each other. They can play together. They know each other are going to get their opportunities different times. We've also been telling that whoever we start, whichever group starts, part of your job is to be so aggressive that at that media timeout, when they're over there catching their breath, we're bringing 5 in that have already that are rested and ready, and now they get a chance to attack that group that's already played 4.5 or 5 minutes on their legs. So I'd be interested to see how our first quarter scores back up to our second and third quarter scores the rest of the year if we're able to keep playing that way. It's out of character for me. It's not something I've ever done on any team I've ever coached, but we have a unique mix on our roster right now. So we're gonna keep doing it as long as it's working.
Kiera and Taylor have upped their games.
Yep.
They get the challenge tomorrow inside with the size. Just how do you think they're gonna do, and then maybe adding some of those other girls in?
They're looking forward to it. They both said when we were starting the prep, they remembered last year's game very vividly. And although they knew the kid graduated, they still know it's a force. They're going to try to throw it inside on us. We know that. That's what they came in here and did last year. I don't suspect they'll try anything differently. So those two kids are ready. They are both vastly different than they were last year. Less foul prone, really punishing kids. If you watch those two kids run in transition, it really pushes their other team's post players to have to run the floor every single time. And if it's not the post player running, now they're getting back on a guard, and that leaves Toll-Free or Raven or Jalen or Mal or whoever, Chelsea, whoever you want to pick on the perimeter open. So our transition is keyed by those two guys. It's not your guards. Most teams have great guards that can run, but your transition's keyed by that small forward or that post player that will get out and run. I know they're excited. They know they got a tough time. We've got a really good guys practice team that I told them to let loose. They can play as hard as they want the last 2 days, and we've gotten a good look in practice.
How much does their improvement maybe helped get the offense going with the the guards looking for them more than maybe they have in the past?
It makes us more or less one-dimensional. I know last year a lot of people didn't really even try to guard us in there because they knew we weren't looking to throw it in there a whole lot, but now you got to work on that. Kind of steals your practice time a little bit because there's enough film of us running some actions that do get the ball to them in positions where they can go score. I would take Kiera and Taylor in any matchup of any 6'2" or under team in the country. You get above 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", now you're talking about asking an awful lot of a kid that's 5'11" or 6 foot. But if they've got a 6'2" or 6'3", I like those kids' chances. They're crafty. They've learned to play at that size around the basket, and they've added stuff. I will also say this. Last year I didn't have a post coach. Last year Coach Todd and I kind of did all the player development stuff ourselves, but during the summer I went with Pauline Love, who was a really, really good post player, undersized post player in her own right when she was a player, and I gave that position to her. And it's a big step for a young coach, but she embraced it. She did a lot of study over the summer. She talked to a lot of really good post coaches. Then she took what she knew as a player. She's been working with those kids. So I think having a specific voice and somebody like Pauline who did it. I go in there, I tell Taylor something, and I get why she would look at me like, I don't think you know what you're talking about because you never did this. I never played post. I was never much less an undersized post player in women's basketball. But when Pauline says something to him, she did it. She lived it, she walked it, she did it, and she did it recently. So I think those two kids' improvement, along with Macy. Macy's much improved as well, and you'll see that when her opportunity comes. So I think Pauline gets a lot of credit for that. Thanks, y'all.